Okay, so this is another fishing story. This is from Salty101.com, my fishing website. I have the stories there. You can read them or just listen here on this playlist and I go through all of them. This is great if you're on your way fishing and you want to hear some stories. A lot of them are fishing related, not exactly about fishing. This story is about spearfishing on the worst day of my life. So this is on the island of Maui where I lived for a year. I lived on Oahu, the other island, for 5 years. And I used to go spearfishing. It was only just before I left, really, like the last maybe year before I left, I started to go spearfishing. Anyway, let me read this story. There's no reason to look at the video. I'm just going to talk like this and I'm reading the story basically. I still remember the day this happened so clearly. It didn't start out as the worst day of my life. I hadn't the slightest idea that a few hours later I'd be wondering if I was even going to make it. I was up around 6 a.m. to eat fresh fruit and egg omelet and get our stuff packed for a road trip over to ULUA Beach on Maui's south shore. I had just bought one of those 3-section screw-together fishing spears with 3 prongs, and I wanted to try it out at this very small beach. It's more like a patch of sand, really. We saw 100 times as we drove by on the way to Kahului or down to Kihei to surf or snorkel. The morning was picture perfect, as were most days on the island of Maui. I lived in a small ahana with my girlfriend, a Filipina girl I met on Oahu the year before. She was an accountant and worked across the street from me. I worked as a marketing director for a property management firm in Lahaina. It's a cozy little community that I can hardly call a town. I lived on the island for just about a year by this point. I love the ocean. We only lived about 100 yards from the closest water, a great little snorkeling spot that I went to a few times a week. Spearfishing was to become a major part of my life with the purchase of this new spear. I was anxious to see what I could do with it. I was really excited to try out my new spear, and the tiny little beach at Oahu had a lot of coral reef around it. I figured I'd find an octopus I could spear and use as bait for the giant Trevally that Hawaiians called ULUA. These are part of the jack family and they can grow to over 100 pounds. They're prized for their fight, but the bigger they are, the worse they are to eat. The younger GTs are much better eating. So I was looking forward to finding an octopus to use as bait for fishing for ULUA from the cliffs at night. Maui has so many rocky volcanic cliffs where you can just sit at night and fish in very deep water. I had been using squid and cut bait, but I wasn't catching ULUA at all. So we filled the back trunk of my old 95 Honda Prelude, this was in 2003, with picnic food, beach umbrella and towels, water to wash off. There weren't any showers at this beach, snorkel gear, and spear. The ride was about 20 minutes with no traffic as usual. Maui has little traffic except during rush hour and the occasional popular event downtown like a concert. We pulled up to the beach on the side of the road and parked. It was immaculate. It was 7:30 a.m. The sun was shining already and rising fast. Warm sunshine filled the air and the cool of the morning was just wearing off. We were the only people there. It's what we counted on. The small beaches of Maui rarely have anyone there. We unpacked the car and laid out our woven beach mats and put up the umbrella. The wind was stronger than usual, and we had to take the umbrella down right away before it blew across the highway. I walked down to the water's edge and sat down in the wet sand to put on my fins, mask, and snorkel. The water was cooler than I expected. I usually snorkeled and surfed in the afternoons after work when the water had time to warm up over the day. I was so excited to float over the reef and look for fish and octopus to spear. I saw many kinds of fish and other sea animals, but not one octopus. I practiced shooting the spear into the sand to make sure I could hit something when I finally did see it. I was out there for almost 2 hours when I decided that my back was going to be burned dark red if I didn't get out soon and get my shirt and sunblock. I slowly kicked in towards shore with my fins and found a place of small round pebbles in about 18 inches of water where I could sit to remove my fins. As I moved to sit down, I felt like a slight hot spot on the inside of my left leg. I sat down and looked under the water with my mask, but there was nothing to see. I pulled my mask off and took off one of my fins. Then I felt a very warm burning on that same spot. Within seconds, I was frantically scraping on my leg with the fins to try to get whatever it was off me. I was like, wow! I realized something was really wrong, and I knew jellyfish of some sort. The pain went from 1 to 2 to a 10 plus in seconds. I yelled to my girlfriend to tell her to start getting stuff in the car now because I was stung by a jellyfish. She was torn between getting her stuff and coming over to me to see if she could comfort me because I was in such distress. I didn't want any comforting. I just knew I needed to get to a hospital really quick because I could already feel my heart beating out of my chest. Thump, 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 thump. Super fast and erratic beats, like it would go ba 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 ba, and then it would seem to like stop. I couldn't even feel my heartbeat. Then it would go ba 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 ba. It would stop then start again, harder than ever. I was thinking this was probably how I was going to die. We gotta pee on it, I screamed. I didn't have to go, but because I had peed in the water many times, as I snorkeled, she couldn't get anything up either. We just that's what you're told, in Hawaii, pee on the sting, pee on a Portuguese man-of-war sting or something like that. It takes the sting away. Then I had trouble thinking straight. I couldn't think straight at all about anything. She would be talking to me and asking me questions, and I couldn't even respond. I remember wondering, what the hell was happening in my head? Why was I unable to think or even speak correctly? She pulled me up toward the car as I told her, I can't even think clearly. She just grabbed me and was like walking with me. Come on, come on. I flopped down in the seat and we drove to the hospital. My leg was on fire like I'd never experienced pain before. So this was after my stingray sting, which had hurt like crazy. Oh, so I say about it. Previously, I stepped on the venomous barb of a stingray at Clearwater Beach in Florida. But this was even more painful because the sting locations were all over roughly an 8-inch circle area. I had a bright red road map of chemical burns all over the inside of my thigh. And it looked like this. Wait, I'm going to draw it real quick. It looked like that. I hope that focuses. It just looked like random lines just all over, right? Let's see, where was I? The pain was like what I imagined some very strong acid eating away my body felt like. Just like the stingray venom, the box jellyfish venom never let up. The pain was constant with never a slight break for a second so I could regain my sanity. It was ridiculously strong. In my mind, as she drove, I was panicking. My heart was going to break. I was pretty sure of it. My mind was going to lose touch with reality. I just knew it. My heart would just go boom, boom, and that would be it. I'd die in the car. I remember thinking that dying was probably preferable to what I was going through. I wasn't sure how much more I could stand, to be honest. It kept up steady and stronger and never letting up at all. I was losing my mind for sure. How can I deal with this pain? It was as if my ability to control my mind was loosening with time and it was getting further away. And I was going to go insane in the next few seconds. That fear of what happened when I either had a heart attack or lost my mind continued for the 20 minutes we went to the hospital. At the hospital, the nurse cracked some chemical packets that blended and got hot. She put that on my leg, and it wasn't easy to keep them there, considering now it hurt even worse with the hot water on there. It was just ludicrous amounts of pain from all this little stinging beast. I stayed at the hospital a few hours. I was constantly putting fresh hot packs on my leg. After a couple of hours, the pain began to lessen. I couldn't believe it. The hot water was breaking down the venom somewhat, finally. My clear thinking came and went. My heart rhythm and intensity slowed down slightly after an hour or so. Eventually it all cleared up and I was able to go home where we continually put hot water on my leg for hours and hours. I remember falling asleep that night wondering if I was going to wake up. It was the kind of experience that wrecks your mind. You realize how fragile you are. It makes you realize you haven't done everything you want to do yet. Maui is nice, but what about Asia, Europe? What about getting that boat you always wanted? What about kids? For more than 5 years, I had this red roadmap of chemical burns on my leg. It slowly faded, but it was a constant reminder that even something that small and nearly invisible could be the ultimate reason you leave this human body. This really contributed to my outlook on life. Live now. Nothing is promised. Nothing is 100%. I have friends that died in their 30s, some in their 40s. I'm shooting for the 90s. So that's the end of that story. The most horrific pain I ever had in my life. I won't say by far. The stingray thing hurt a lot because it was on the bottom of the foot where you have more nerve endings, right? But this box jellyfish where it got my leg was over this much area, you know, so for me it hurt more. So I have other fishing stories. You can listen to them here in the playlist. They'll continue playing, or go to my website and I have a list of fishing stories. Click the fishing link at the top of the site and then scroll down a bit and you'll see the category for fishing stories and you can read them if you want to read them. Okay? So the next one is going to be, I take my little brother fishing and nearly kill him. This is, I did a Big Brother thing for some kids in Tampa, Florida, that had a horrible life, and I got to take them places and do fun things with them, and try to show them, you know, that not all guys are abusive. So I took this kid fishing, and something horrible happened. Anyway, that's the next story. Hope you like these, and cheers.